Welcome to Right on the Mark with your host, Mark Young. Today we're going to talk about fish fries through the years. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about fish fries during Lent. There's 40 days during the year that people flock to restaurants. They flock to social clubs. They flock to VFWs. They go to all types of restaurants and, they're looking for fish. Definitely on Friday. Friday is the time for fish. It all goes back probably starting at the beginning of time. You could basically say Jesus and the apostles were fishermen. Come on. They all live and worked right by the Sea of Galilee. So, the fish was plentiful. But around town, the fish fry are all the rage, meaning that you're always looking for a sign for fish fries. So if you're going around town and it's a Friday, a lot of restaurants are going to be packed. A lot of volunteer fire company places are going to be packed. You just know that certain places are going to be packed with people because they just love their fish. I can remember growing up and as a kid and going to these fish fries around town. And one of my first memories was Tony's Lounge back in Monessen. And it was probably the first time I ever heard the phrase fish on a dish. Because I could remember these big plates of just fresh fish being fried up on a platter. And you can get a Tony's platter, a Tony's Junior platter. You could get certain types of food there. But Friday, you always had to wait for a table, and everyone came. It seemed like everybody was working towards the weekend. And when Friday came, after you finished work, you went to Tony's. And I'm pretty sure that's what, all the guys working at the mills did. I'm sure they talked about it. Hey, let's go have a drink at Tony's and eat some fish. But that wasn't the only place to go around the valley. Growing up, my parents would take me all over the place, and they'd always be trying to look for the best fish sandwich. My mom always used to call it fist sandwich. Like, she always had a hard time saying fish sandwich. So we always teased her about that, and she'd be like, well, let's go get fist sandwiches. Oh, Mom, that was pretty funny. But, so we were always going out. I can remember as a kid going to a place called Crampo's. Crampo's in Bell Vernon. I think it was up by Hills. I want to say the Tri-County Plaza. It was probably near the, Super 71 Drive-In, I believe. There was also another restaurant up there, a couple different restaurants up there. The Birch Tree was up there, and I think they had fish sandwiches. I can't really remember all the ones that I used to visit as a kid because, I went wherever my mom drove. And we went on a Friday night for sure. There wasn't a lot of eating out in those days. Eating out was definitely big back in the day because if you think about it, the 60s and 70s, there wasn't as many restaurants, fast food chains around as there is now. Come on, let's look at every corner now. There's a fast food place or, a corner market or a convenience store where you could go in and get anything you want to eat, drink. It's just a Greco's at every corner, you could say, because, everyone wants to get a piece of the pie. So they're opening up stores all over the place, especially where we're at now. Restaurants come in, restaurants go out, and everybody's looking for the latest hot spots. So just going through some of the fish fries that I remember as a child, Tony's Lounge was definitely big, but there was another big place in Monessen. I could remember eating at the Alpine. I believe it's still open, but the Alpine served fish with a long bun. And you always wanted a long bun, at least in my opinion, you always wanted a long bun to join your fish sandwich because that's how the fish looks. Say you go to McDonald's or say you go to Burger King or Burger Chef, wherever you want to go, they're going to give you a round bun and the fish is probably square. Now, I know they cut the fishes up in little cubes or little squares, but that's just not the same. I need a long length bun and I need a long length fish. For sure. No doubt. And those are my favorite places. A lot of people talk about all these fish sandwiches and then I'll go there and I'll find out they give you a round bun. and it almost looks like it came, from Giant Eagle, or it was a Town Talk bun or something. You need like a Keystone hoagie bun or fish bun to actually accompany your fish, and that's the way it is. You don't get any cheese, you don't get lettuce or tomato, you get fish, and you either put like homemade, I'll say tartar sauce or homemade cocktail sauce with it. Some of the places you'll get fish and fries. Some of the places you'll get fish and mac and cheese. Or some of the places you'll get fish on a dish, as I said. So there's different variations of the fish, but definitely look for the long buns. So I'm trying to think of some of the places back in the Mon Valley. I mean, I can remember some of the churches we used to visit. They would always have fish fries, whether it was St. Gajetan's, St. Leonard's, or Holy Name, or any of those. A lot of the social clubs, I believe, had them. I remember going to like the Ukrainian club or the Hunky club. Maybe even the French club had it. Polish club might have even had it too. But back in the day, I was basically going where everyone said the fish was at. Whatever the best fish sandwich was, you wanted to go get it. And some of the places. Trying to think, offhand, as I got older, I remember going to a place called the Foster House. I'm sure you all know that place, and they are known for their king sandwiches. So I'd always get a king fish there. Basically, it was fish, fried fish, and it was on a Italian bun, or Italian bread actually, and it came with coleslaw and French fries and a tomato. But that was one of the odd places, was the Foho. They always made sandwiches different, but it always tastes good. Definitely always tastes good. But I can remember when myself and the lovely Kim would move. We actually moved to South Park, and our first year there, the first Lent came around, and I talked to some of our neighbors, and they raved about this place in South Park. It was a place called Doritos, and it was just up the road from us, probably a mile, maybe not even a mile. I'm like, oh boy, we gotta go to Doritos. So we get to Doritos, and what do they do? But give us a round bun. Unbelievable. So these people in South Park are raving about this fish fry at Doritos. I go to the restaurant, and you know what I get? I got it to go, as a matter of fact. I got takeout. So what they did was they threw a bunch of fried fish in a brown paper bag, and then they threw buns in, just right on top of it, right on the side. Crumbled up the top of the brown bag, and they said, "Here you go." I'm like, is that what you call a fish sandwich in South Park? Not to me. That was just too funny. But to this day, I know people that go to South Park and they'll talk about Doritos. So I think they're really missing out on the long bun. And, that kind of makes a sandwich. If you talk to my dad, Mike, he'll tell you, the bun always makes the sandwich. It's got to be fresh, it's got to be soft, and it's got to be long to accompany that fish sandwich, because that's just the way to eat it. There is no other way. But hey, you eat what they give you, and then you mark it off the list, and you say you either go back or you don't go back. It's one or the other. There's a couple other good places in South Park that did have the long buns that I really liked. I can remember the Baltimore House on Lebanon Church Road. I believe that's still there too, but their fish sandwich was always good. They're basically, all their food was good. I mean, they had really good cheeseburgers and things like that, and appetizers, and of course the beer was always cold. But their fish sandwiches were really good. But I remember one of my big memories of South Park was going to the Large Hotel. Now, they had a restaurant, and you could eat in or take out. I'm not sure if the hotel was actually active or not, but one of the things that I used to go there to get was a fish sandwich called the Codfather. And let me tell you, it was huge. It was huge. So I would always talk about the Codfather. To this day, I'll look at menus now on Friday and I'll think of the Codfather, and there's different variations of it. But man, I tell you what, it was a long bun. It was 2 or 3 big pieces of fish. I don't know what it was, cod or flounder or whatever it was, but man, was it good. So I'm not sure if the Large Hotel was still there and in business. It's been a while since we've been there, probably a good 20 to 25 years. But I do remember that, living in South Park. Those restaurants were really good. Now, where we live at in Cannonsburg now, there's a lot of good places around here. Just off the top of my head, some of the restaurants that I could remember going there is the Capstone Grill. Always has some good fish sandwiches. I really can't remember if they have the round bun or the long bun, but I remember it being really good and really upscale. It pretty much rivaled one of my favorite, which is the Alpine in Monessen. The Alpine probably made the best fish sandwiches in the Mon Valley, in my opinion, but the Capstone Grill was probably right there with it. We haven't gone there in a while, but I might have to go back there and try a fish sandwich just for old time's sake. Of course, there's other restaurants around here too. Right down the road, I'm a member at the Muse Italian Club. Me and my father-in-law Doc are social members down there, so we can go down there anytime. And once a month they'll have spaghetti and tripe dinners, and every Friday they have fish fries. Now, it's not just during Lent; it's every Friday. Yes, I said that. Every Friday they have a fish fry. Now, they have a lot of other things to offer too. I mean, that was another thing I was going to talk about was the different variations of fish fries that they have nowadays. I mean, the Muse Italian Club will have cheese sticks. They'll have fried crab cakes. Of course, they'll have the French fries. They'll have the coleslaw. But they'll have other variations of it. They'll have fried zucchini. They'll have basically anything you want, they'll fry it. But they've even had fried shrimp, and I like their fried shrimp. So usually when I go down there, I usually get an order of crab cakes, order of fried shrimp, an order of fish sandwich, and you got to get fries. And I like their homemade tartar sauce and their cocktail sauce, which is really good. But it's so hard to go down to the Muse Club and just pick one. So I don't go down there very often. If I go down there a couple times a year, that's enough. But when I do, I basically get one of each. And you know what I like to say about one of each? I also like to follow it up by saying two of each and son of each. It's just a saying. But yeah, like I said, there's different variations. And a lot of people like the fish sandwich with macaroni and cheese. Now, I'm a big fan of that. Don't get me wrong. I can go with some macaroni and cheese and fish. And, I work in Bridgeville, which isn't too far from Carnegie, the Kerwin Heights area. And one of the big fish fries there, it's actually not a fish fry. It's a restaurant called Rocky's. And I'll tell you what, I don't know if it's still there. I haven't had Rocky's fish sandwiches in a while. I might have to ask at work in the next couple days or so. But I'll tell you what, Rocky's fish sandwiches rocked. That's for sure. I remember waiting outside, waiting in line, just waiting to go back to work to get their fish sandwiches. That's how good they were. You could always go to some other fish fries. The lovely Kim works in downtown Pittsburgh, so she's been to a few. She used to rave about, Bankovitz's fish sandwich. I believe I had it once or twice, or Wooley's fish sandwich. Now, the way they prepare it, they could do it either way. They could do it baked, they could do it deep fried, or they could just do it steamed. So there's different ways that they could prepare the fish, and I kind of like that. I mean, all the rave now is everybody's health conscious. So what they want to do is they'll have baked fish, or they'll have steamed fish, or broiled fish. Don't get me wrong, I like that stuff too. All this fried fish isn't good for you, but man, it tastes really good. But definitely you can get another variation of it around here. So there's a lot to talk about with these fish fries, and Lent's going pretty strong. And as we head in the middle of the Lent season, I'm sure nobody's going to let up. Just as a matter of fact, I had fish for lunch yesterday from Portman's. Portman's in Bridgeville, they have a pretty good fish sandwich. Bees does as well. I've had Bees once or twice. They're pretty good. But I just don't get around that area as much. Logistically, it's just hard for me to get there through work, just with all the traffic and the cars that are all jammed up there. But I used to be a regular at Bees and Portman's whenever I worked on the other side of Bridgeville. But now I work downtown Bridgeville, so it's just hard logistically to get over there. But they do have some fish sandwiches. And my one buddy who brought him back to work, his name's Tim, and he's like, they were just throwing trays and trays of these. And it's baked fish at Portman's. You got two pieces on a round bun with lettuce and tomato. And it was pretty cool. It was really good. And it had homemade tartar sauce. So, man, I crushed that. We all crushed that in probably within 2 minutes. It was so good. They're not that big, but man, they are tasty. And Portman Farms, they really know how to do it up. They have like the finest quality meats and cheeses and fishes that you could find. Because I think they go to I want to say the Strip District, regularly. But all their meats are boarhead's meat, which is really good. Their cheeses are good. Their soups are good. Their, definitely their cold cuts are good. And, they have different snacks there as well. But we had their fish last Friday, and then that was Friday for lunch. And then I came home and I had fish from Max and Irma's. Now, Max and Irma's is good, but they never give you a bun. You get fish, you get New England fish and chips. It's basically a plastic container of fish on a bed of fries, and I think a bun is extra. As a matter of fact, I think a couple times I've asked for a bun, and they never gave it to me. I just don't think they know what type of bun to give you. But that's some of the fish sandwiches that I've had just recently. But going back to the day, you can never quite perfect those fish fries back in the 70s and 80s. I swear they probably never changed their oil. That's probably why they were so dark and crispy. Yeah, boy, that brings back memories. Memories, I'll tell you. As always, I always like to hear my fans and where they like to go for fish fries. What's your favorite restaurant or church or social event that you like to go to get your fish sandwich and fish fries? So I always recommend that you comment below. Definitely tap the bell, subscribe, like, do all that fun stuff. So that about wraps it up, folks, for Right on the Mark with your host, Mark Young. See you next time, folks.